Okay, I'll use the mic. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here. And to start the service off, we're going to sing How Great Thou Art. And there's some paper on the chairs so that you can sing along. I'd like to thank Matthew Creamer for playing the piano. And he's Mom's son-in-law, married to her daughter Pam. And Sherston Sutherland is going to lead the music. And after we sing the song, then the invocation will be done by Debbie Elliott, daughter-in-law and wife to Richard Elliott, youngest boy, our baby. And after that, then the eulogy will be presented by Courtney Mascarenas. So we'll just start with the song for right now.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before Thee at this time with gratitude in our heart for the life of Charlotte Elliott, for her example to us. We're thankful for the unity that we have in our love for her. We ask for Thy Spirit to be with us and help us to be able to feel of thy Spirit during this time. And we say these things in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
My name's Courtney. I am one of Charlotte's granddaughters. They say really good speakers make eye contact with their audience, but I do not have this memorized, so bear with me. It is a great honor to be able to stand before all of you and to deliver the life sketch of my sweet grandmother. She was a woman of integrity, drive, compassion, and beauty. And I sincerely hope what I say today will be meaningful and memorable and do justice to this remarkable soul. It's a difficult task, condensing 91 years of defining qualities and highlights and accomplishments into a few brief moments. Charlotte Hale Elliott was born on October 6, 1931, to Vasco Lester Hale and Della Hoops Hale in Afton, Wyoming. She was born the third child of 7 to her parents. She grew up before television and penicillin, polio shots, frozen food, Xerox copiers, and even contact lenses. She saw inventions like the credit card and air conditioners, dishwashers, disposable diapers, and microwaves come to life. And she experienced events like man walking on the moon after she'd already been married for 17 years. Growing up in that generation was very different than what all of us know. Grandma grew up during the Great Depression and learned that you had to work hard and make do with what little you had. She grew up on a ranch. There were many things that needed to be done, not just around the clock, but all year long. And as soon as she was old enough, she was out helping her father with all the chores, come rain, shine, and even those blistering Wyoming winters that she despised. We're all so lucky that she shared so many memories of her childhood through journals and stories for us to reflect upon. Grandma graduated from Star Valley High School, home of the Braves, class of 1949, and went on to Utah State University in Logan, Utah. She attended USU for 3 years and was in Honor Society during her sophomore year. She only had 2 classes left to graduate when she met the love of her life, Victor Wallace Elliott. They were wed, surrounded by family and friends, on March 20th, 1952, in the Logan Temple, a temple that will always be special to Grandma. Grandpa's military group was outside waiting for them, and when the bride and groom exited the temple, a saber arch was waiting to walk beneath. The Arch of Swords is meant to ensure the couple's safe passage into their new life together. Family was most important to both her and my grandfather, and they wasted no time creating a family of their own. They welcomed their first son, Victor Lawrence, in May of 1953. And as if having one child isn't enough of a challenge, they welcomed 3 more. Pamela Jean, their only daughter, or as my dad would say, their favorite daughter. She was born in June of 1954, followed by Robert J. in January of 1956, and then their caboose, Richard Lavelle, in December of 1957. They were married 62 and a half years before Grandpa passed away in September of 2014. And they are to this day the prime example of what unconditional love is to all of us. Grandma's hands were always busy, whether it was creating her beautiful yarn-covered hangers that so many of us have, to making one of her beautiful quilts, or even crafts with plastic canvas. And I'm pretty sure every great-grandchild here was shown how to make Jingle Bell blocks. Grandma was also an accomplished seamstress. She made all of her own formals while she was in college. And when the children were growing up, she made shirts for the boys and matching church dresses for her and Pam. Personally, I have fond memories of Grandma's homemade Barbie clothes, especially the mermaid sets. They were always my favorite, fun colors. She was also known to have a rotation of family members that would sit down in front of her so she could work her magic hands on tickling their necks, heads, and backs. And I'm pretty sure Grandma is the reason my own dad is obsessed with neck rubs the way he is. Grandma was known to enjoy losing herself in a good book. She was a voracious reader, especially country westerns, and I think it's safe to say she has read every Louis L'Amour novel at least once. And she was always the first to check the book exchange in the clubhouse of their Ivans home for new novels. And when she moved into the care facility in Monroe, she loved to tell everyone, I go out my door, turn to the left, and have 20 steps to the library. What she didn't tell them was how she loaded her walker to the brim with books to take back to her room, leaving none for anybody else. Grandma had a special love for flowers. She would love all of these. She had a variety of flowers and plants that she grew inside and out, and was always willing to share starts with anybody who wanted one. I remember my grandparents' house in Benyon, Utah. Grandma and Grandpa would send you home with starts from their raspberry bushes, their strawberry plants, rhubarb, Shasta daisies, and even Grandma's beloved irises. Rhubarb pie will always make me think of her, along with those irises. She told me a story about a house down in Ivans that she would drive past that had the most beautiful blue irises you had ever seen. So beautiful that one day she decided to stop and admire them. She says she walked up to the front door, knocked, the homeowner answered, and she praised his beautiful flowers. They talked for a little bit about their love of flowers, and sure enough, he offered her a start of those irises. After loading it in the trunk, she took it home to plant in her garden where she could enjoy it out the window in the den every day. My grandmother loved her family, her friends, but mostly her Savior. Her devotion to the LDS gospel was unparalleled. She cherished every opportunity that she had to serve in the church and gave her heart to each calling. She was a visiting teacher all of her married life. Her and my grandfather were one of 12 missionary couples working for the church mission department in the Book of Mormon Testimony Placement Program, speaking at various meetings throughout the country. She also taught in primary, Sunday school, and the Relief Society. For 13 years, she was the secretary of the Relief Society, and for 2, she was in the presidency. And even later in life, when she could no longer drive and her body was starting to slow down, she found ways to serve others and her community by helping with humanitarian projects, which she thoroughly enjoyed. She was the most selfless soul I have ever had the privilege of knowing. Grandma and Grandpa loved to travel in their travel trailer, and after Grandpa retired in 1981, they spent most of the summers traveling the United States. As they got a little bit older, they limited those travels more to just the Western United States. I have so many special memories of camping with them. Weekend visits as a kid during the summer up at East Canyon or Spruces. Grandma would always take you on walks and hikes. Her love for being outside hiking is something that everyone remembers about her. Uncle Larry shared some cherished memories of Grandma hiking with him when he was younger, working on his hiking merit badge for Scouts. She accompanied him on every hike that she could so that they could talk and so he wasn't alone. She loved to explore her surroundings, wherever her travels led her, often finding cherished keepsakes like seashells and sand dollars and many, many pine cones that she took home with her. One specific memory I have was an Elliott family reunion we all went on. We were camping and staying up in Big Sky, Montana. Grandma and Grandpa had their trailer, my parents had their tent trailer, and my brothers and I were put into a tent, a canvas tent. I was terrified, as I had seen signs about bear sightings all day long around camp. And I just knew that if I slept in that tent, I was going to turn into some bear's midnight snack. So, after asking Grandma and then begging my parents, I ditched the tent and got a good night's sleep in the safety of her trailer, all while offering my brothers up as the midnight snack instead of myself. Maybe Grandma had a soft spot for this fear of mine, as I learned by Uncle Richard that the Young family had a brief encounter with a bear helping itself to an ice chest full of food while they quietly observed from a tent in Yosemite National Park. This is why they had the travel trailer. Grandma Charlotte lived an amazing life, full of family, faith, and many other things that kept her heart happy and full. Although the last couple of years were hard on her, she remained an example to all of us in all that she did. Grandma didn't really like to venture too far from home those last few years that she was down in Ivins. And I remember calling her up one January with a special idea to bring her up to Salt Lake to surprise my dad for his 60th birthday. Thought I was really gonna have to sell her on this idea, and I was fully prepared to do so. But surprisingly, she agreed almost instantaneously. So I drove down from Salt Lake, picked up her and her overnight bag, and then drove back the same day. It made it all worth it when she walked in and surprised him. Both of them had the biggest smiles on their face I'd ever seen, and it's probably safe to say my dad sat down in front of her to get his birthday back tickles. My grandmother will be remembered for so many beautiful qualities, but mostly for her elegance and her quiet reserve. As I said, she was the most unselfish person ever, and she would share everything she had with those she loved. She was the most loving person, and family was what mattered most to her. I'll miss our talks, although they seemed to get shorter and shorter each time I called. I'll miss her hugs and her kisses every time I saw her. I'll miss her sweet smile and her quiet laugh. But mostly I'll miss her and her ability to make me feel the immense amount of love she carried in her heart for me, no matter what. For all of us, really. I find comfort in knowing she's no longer in pain and that she is reunited with the love of her life, who she has missed for the last 9 long years. In closing, I would like to leave you with some words from our friend Winnie the Pooh. If there ever comes a day when we cannot be together, keep me in your heart. I'll be there forever. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Courtney. That was a wonderful eulogy of your grandmother. We miss her all dearly. Mom, she loved camping. She loved the outdoors. That was just always what she did. And she spread that love to us. Our family, we always loved going camping, taking our trailer or our tent or whatever we had. And we always loved going camping, taking the children with us. Mom always liked, her favorite spots was always the beach. She always loved going to the beach. She'd get up and walk down there first thing in the morning before everybody else would, so she'd go down and she'd get starfish and shells, and oh Lord, she had so many shells there at the house that when we cleaned up, I mean, she had buckets and buckets of shells that she picked up from the beach, and she'd give shells to all her kids and grandkids and everybody else. The other place that we loved the most was Pinecrest. We always loved going up to Pinecrest camping. Mom, as I said, always loved to hike and walk, so we'd always loved walking around Pinecrest Lake, and that was a couple miles to walk around the lake, so we'd always, every time we was up there camping, we'd have to walk around the lake. And then when we was off playing, Mom and Dad had that big buzzer that was really loud, so when we was off playing, we could be about a mile away playing in the trees and rocks, and they'd ring that buzzer, and we knew it was time to come back to the trailer to eat. So we always had a lot of good memories. Mom was a wonderful woman. She loved her children. She loved her grandchildren. She loved her great-grandchildren, and she loved her great-grandchildren. That was her whole mission in life, is her family. And so at this time, we'd like to open up the time to anybody that'd like to come up and share a memory of their mother or grandmother or great-grandmother. We appreciate at this time.
Hello, I'm Jeremy. I'm Jay's youngest son, and I just want to share some memories that I've had. Like, how many people in this room have thought they're finished eating, and Grandma came along and stirred everything into one pile and made you take one or two more bites? I always enjoyed that, and it wasn't out of malice. It was she wanted to make sure you were full, and her love of camping that passed on to my dad has turned into a love of camping that I do with my family. And I used to love going to their house down in Ivins. I considered it like a museum. Going into the garage, and I would talk with Grandpa about what's this, and then Grandma, I would always she always had stories on where she got that thing, what she was doing, what day it was. And it was quite enjoyable for to sit back and hear all the stories of all the adventures. And every time I met with her or at my dad's house, I would always show her pictures of where I've been, and she gave me suggestions. Oh, if you go to the Tetons, take this little spot and go up and over and you'll be amazed. And went there and there was no people, and it was quite enjoyable that now forever I go up there and have that link that I can associate with her. And it's quite good. And I am a lovely recipient of the arm tickles for hours. We'd be in Zion National Park, and I was the littlest one, and they had a Mercury Grand Marquis that had a bench. It'd be my dad, my grandma, or me in the middle because I was the littlest, and she would sit there for the whole entire drive and then just rub it. And one of the last memorable visits I had with her is we went on a family trip to California, and I would never call. I would just show up out of the blue. I did that about 4 times, and I thought that'd be a great surprise. Knock on the door, hey, here I am. How are you? And we visited for about 3 hours, and then went on a trip. And it's always the memories that I'll keep of everything. But I just want to say that there could be no more of a tolerant, loving woman. And all of you have been there when she's reciting everybody's birthday, oh, this is Sherson's daughter, she was born this day, and she would go on to 20 different people know the birthdays, and that's just because her love for everyone in this room. And I just want to say thank you guys. And
You'll have to scoot this back. I'm an in-law, so I'm not one of the bloodline, but I married the oldest grandson, Tony, and he could do no wrong in her eyes, but he could do a lot of wrong. I remember him getting into mischief once, and she almost took it out on me in a very kind way. She goes, I got my hearing aids in. And I was thinking, tell him that. But I loved Grandma very much. I'm just coming from the outside in, when I first met them, and her big smile and her patience. Nobody talks about that much, but she had a lot of patience. I could see that Grandpa Victor could be difficult sometimes. And I asked her, I said, Grandma, you have a lot of trials. How do you get through it? And she said, I pray. And I thought, those are some miracle prayers. She was just, immensely patient. I'm pretty sure Grandpa's easier to deal with now that he's on the other side. And I'm sure that she's with him now. I'm so grateful for Grandma. I just wanted to say I'm glad that you guys welcomed me into the family, and I'm just truly blessed to have had her as a grandma-in-law. I'm glad she cared about me as well as all of her other grandkids, and I'm glad that she put up with Grandpa as long as she did, and I love Grandpa too, don't get me wrong. Grandpa was really sweet to me. He'd take me aside and show me things, and I remember him taking me once aside. I know this is Grandma's day, but I'm bringing up Grandpa too, but Grandpa once brought me to the side and he showed me how he does tithe, and this is what I pay, this is what I do. And I remember him saying, "He who hath tithes shall not burn." I was like, whoa, you can buy your way out of hell? Because I didn't grow up a member of the church. I joined when I was 24 years old. The missionaries were stalking my husband. And I said, maybe we should call the police because they won't leave us alone. Because seriously, they keep coming over to our house. But I ended up joining their religion eventually. So you just never know nowadays. They could be like Jehovah's Witnesses that are imposters. I just didn't know about them. So they just come over a lot. When you don't go to church, it's almost easier to go to church than to have them come over unexpectedly so often. So I love Grandma. I miss her big smile, and I can't wait to see her again. And I know that Christ's coming is nearing. And so I'm pretty excited about the short distance we have till we see her again. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. I feel like I'm giving a testimony. Amen.
I don't know if anybody has noticed it in the program that this is from the Tetons, your Yellowstone, and this is one of the mountain views in the background from Lake Tahoe. And back here is another version of Lake Tahoe. If you really look, you can see this side that has the sunburst coming out. And that also helps describe my mom and dad, that they both loved those different areas of their life. My mother was a very sweet and smart, intelligent person. She helped me learn how to make bread, as all of us kids, watched her throughout the years, how her secrets were and everything. And for Girls Camp, when I came of age, she said, "You'll have more fun if you made something and sold it." And so I ended up making bread with her recipe and her secret techniques. And I did that the whole time I was involved in the program for Girls Camp. And I sold it to the neighborhood people in our church, and many people would buy it every summer. They'd be so excited when it was, pre-summer, when it was time that Pam was going to bake Charlotte's bread. And then I've had some that asked during the year because their family wanted the Elliott bread. And so there's tips that she's also helped many, her almond bark, her chicken noodle soups, different things that she just had that magic touch. She also taught me of how to give her a perm, because she loved perms in her hair. And with that, I carried that tradition on to college with roommates, special friends of theirs or mine, and a few in my mission. And then, as a young mom, did it to other young moms, and all because of her. It was done with service. And that's what everybody needed in that stage of life, was a service job done to themselves. And so that's how all of us kids, we learned how important service was. We taught our own children, and they have taught theirs, that service is very important. You don't have to get paid for a lot of things. You do it out of love and respect for each other. My mother was very important in all of us kids' lives. Her and Dad taught us basic things, like what to do with the car in different situations. So if you're stranded, you know how to help before you get AAA to help. But they did special things like that for all of us, and everyone, cousins included, can tell you stories about Aunt Charlotte as well as it's very special. And I know that she's very happy to be able to give us the love that she has cared for so much.
We were debating, and I made a deal with my family that I would get up and start if they got up behind me. So here we are. My fondest memory of Grandma Charlotte would have to be when Chris and I were engaged, and we went up to stay with them. I want to say East Canyon. Yes, East Canyon it was. The rule for me to be able to go up there was we had to sleep head to toe on the bed, which obviously, as you could imagine, made my parents very happy and were willing to let me go if that was the rule and it stayed in stone. And Grandma Charlotte made sure to let them know that it would be. They would be monitoring us and making sure we were following the rules. Her love for the gospel meant a lot to me. My family is LDS, so it was very important to my family to have that connection. And so knowing that she had the same values and morals as my family made them love Chris even more. But even as we grew up and made our own decisions, she unconditionally loved us for whatever we chose and whoever we wanted to become, which I valued and I appreciated. So yeah, that's my favorite memory of Grandma Charlotte, making sure we were behaving on our camping trip.
I'm Chris, Jay's oldest son. I have a lot of fond memories of my grandma. Most of them were summer memories. During the summer, we travel a lot with them. I grew up as a kid. They lived really close in Banyan here to us, and I remember long summer trips and drives. I remember some of those drives would go far into the night, and Grandma would sit there in the front seat. She'd be like, "Look at all those." They were headlights and taillights, but she'd call them diamonds and rubies. Diamonds and rubies. Look at all those diamonds and rubies. When I got older in life, they moved to St. George. We'd go down there almost every Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving dinner. I remember all those trips. That was fun. Her food was delicious. We'd always go to Zion's National Park a couple days after Thanksgiving. It was cold and beautiful. We did a lot of summer trips together around July, which was great because there's July birthdays, and I'm one of them. It's kind of felt like I was celebrated the whole time. Made other grandkids feel jealous. There's another July birthday over there. Knows how it goes. Later in life, a lot of our vacations as a family revolved around seeing Grandma, stopping there, either staying there or stopping there. One of our last trips to Zion's, we brought her along. It was hot. It was July, or was it July? Yeah, it was July. Way too hot to go to Zion's. It was hot, miserable. It was busy. The trams were busy. But at those moments, it's not the misery, it's the people you're with that make the difference. There you go.
My favorite memory is when we were in the den and she saw a hummingbird and she lost it and so excited.
Hi, my name's Anna Gonzalez. I'm Victor's, Elliott's second oldest child. So I'm sure as you guys all can relate, we all have so many wonderful memories, and I'm thinking, where do you begin, really? You know, growing up, I don't think you really appreciate the things as you have in life until you get as an adult or to a certain age and you have a family of your own. I remember many years my dad would send me out to my grandparents and I would be torture. I'd be like, really, I gotta go again this year? And I'd kick and scream. I thought it was punishment to some extent. And, but when I look back, those are the most fondest memories. And you don't really appreciate some of the things in those moments, and you don't realize how much important it is to be with your family in these moments, even just the little things like, just the dinners, like, the gatherings. And, it's so important to take the time to cherish because, it's when they're gone, you really reflect. And life is so short, and when I sit back and I look at my grandma, I remember going up to her. Rachel was so nice enough to give me my grandparents' address because, that's where I relate, coming here to Utah. I haven't been to Salt Lake in this area for probably maybe over 17, 18 years, probably longer. And when I drove by that home, I was telling Rachel, because we went on a run earlier today, I remember these long icicles on the house. And I was telling her, I remember just the grandfather clock clicking and, just like all these flood of memories. I remember when you knew when grandma was up because you smelled the cooking coming through, the pancakes, the bacon, always made her food from scratch, never bought it from a grocery store. I remember sitting there in the living room as we all talked, her hands were always busy. If she wasn't trying to tickle you with your hair and curl it, she was sewing. And we all kind of like Courtney mentioned about those coat hangers. I can't remember how many I have of those, all little decorated and everything. And we would sit there and she loved watching Angela Lansbury was her favorite, that Murder, She Wrote. She loved that lady. It was faithfully on the clock, and it's hard because I think when you get older and as you grow up, you get families of your own and you tend to kind of lose touch with the ones you love. But, one of the things when I had my family, and even though I wasn't around as much, as a grandkid, because you get your thing, my husband and I, every time we went to the Vegas area and when my grandparents moved up to St. George, we always made an attempt to go out there to see her, even if it was just for a lunch, a quick hike, I think one of our last finest moments with my grandma is one of the most cherishable moments. And I was really shocked. She wanted to go with us to Zion. We talked about everybody's had a Zion trip with them. And she wanted to go hiking. She didn't really go up the hills. She would ride the shuttles and she would say, I'll stay right here, but you guys go up, make sure you get your picture and come back and show me. And, I'm really thankful for those moments, because those are the ones that we cherish dearly. And I think when I look back too, I think one of the other things I look at every time I see that game, Rummy Cube, I'm sure you guys all have played. She loved her Rummy Cube and she loved her card games, and I think I was telling Rachel, another cool moment was she's the only lady I know who makes, when you make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, puts butter on it. I don't think I ever knew who puts butter, but it's those little, you don't think those little moments and those little things they do cherish, and I'm just so very grateful and thankful for just the time that my grandparents, for both my grandma and my grandpa, that I had, I look back and you take it for granted. You just don't really realize what you have. And, family is so important. And grandma loved all her kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. You went into her, in her house in St. George, she had all the grandkids, cards from Christmas and all their photos all up, and she, like you said, she knew at the back of the hand their dates, their birth, everything. And it was just so memorized, and she was just so proud. She wore it with honor, and she was just so proud. And anyways, I just want to say I'm just so thankful, and I'm sure we all have these cherished memories, and and I guess we can hold on to those. But anyways, thank you.
One other food item that is also a fantastic treat was the homemade noodles with the mashed potatoes and turkey. That was always one of my favorites. There's not much more that I can say that hasn't been said. I would like to excuse my brother. He and his family, they are still getting situated back east. They just moved back from Bulgaria, and so they aren't able to come right now. Nathan, I spoke with him yesterday, and he feels bad that he can't be here. He specifically mentioned Michael. Wishes he enjoyed that time that he was at your house. Long time ago. But I hope that we need to use our Facebooks more appropriately so that we can all stay in contact and be friends with each other, so that even if this is the last time we're together in person, we can still be Grandpa and Grandma's family together. And that's what I hope we can do. Thank you.
Some of you guys don't know me. I am one of the daughter-in-law of Charlotte. I call her mom. I never call her Charlotte. In my culture, calling first name, it's not good. That means you don't respect that person. And she was my real mom. I'm married with Victor Lawrence Elliott. I met with him as a Victor, and he's going to be always Victor, but people, they call him Larry. You guys love him as a Larry. It's okay for me. So I have a really good relationship with her. Every Christmas we went to St. George. We spent over there, and she was telling me her stories. She believed God deeply. She believed in Jesus and the Spirit and angels. She told me one of the stories really touchable. She said she had Victor, maybe 2 years old, walking very slowly. And she was a hard worker in the house, cleaning, keeping everything good, and cooking. And then she forgot him somehow. And then she heard some voice calling to her, Charlotte, take care of your son. And she couldn't believe the first somebody called her. And then again, Charlotte, you better get out and take care of your son. And then she started looking for him. The door was open, she said. Victor walked out the street, and then he was in the middle of the street. It was the busiest street, she said. My husband doesn't know this story. She shared with me, and she grabbed him and she took him home, and then she was so happy. And then she believed in God, and God was telling her, you know, you're my child, and your children are mine, and I'm taking care of you, my angels too. So I want to share with you guys the story. And every Christmas, another one, we were cooking turkey. So Mom got sick. She couldn't taste any turkey anymore very well, the seasoning on it, if you know it. So Dad was telling me, come on, let's go do some seasoning on it. What do you know from your culture we can put on turkey, makes better seasoning, and we can taste. We were doing always, secretly putting some, my culture, olive oil, sage, black pepper to make that turkey delicious. And she was cooking really good, but no flavor, just turkey flavor it was, and Dad wants to have a flavor. And then Dad was saying always on the table, hey, you cook really good, Charlotte, this turkey, and blinking on me, with a good job, it's kind of the attitude. So that's what I want to share with you guys. They were so lovely. They opened a heart for me, and hugs. They make us always comfortable. She spent time with me talking. At the beginning, she didn't understand my speaking. I had accent heavily, probably, and still I have it. But we turned a really good friend, and she was opening her heart and telling me those good stories. And now she's with the angels, and she's with her family. Thank you.
I liked how she made. I liked how she made Barbie clothes, and I really liked playing with them. And it will help you remember her. And I'm just thankful that Great Grandma Elliott was here, and that we all got to know, most of us got to know her, and in the name of Jesus Christ.
Do you want to say something? Okay. All right. Thanks, Alan. I don't know how the grandkids haven't mentioned what I thought was her most iconic dish. Whatever, was it cabbage and marshmallows and mayo, whatever that thing was that got mixed together, and if you didn't eat it, then you got more of it? It did not taste like, there were marshmallows and coleslaw. Anyway, that was just the side dish that was my youth, that was like, oh, I have to take a bite, or she gives you 2 scoops. A lot of you have like fun, fond memories of camping with them. I am not a camper. And so kind of like Anna, most of those were torturous events for me, where I was like, how long do we have to go to East Canyon? The pool is icy cold and they make me swim every day. So my favorite was when they went to Fish Lake, because I got to go back to Richfield at the end of the day and sleep in a bed. My memories of them camping, I remember going on the walks with Grandma, and she'd always make me get a piece of, I'm not sure if she made me or if I wanted to be like her, but I remember chewing on the pieces of like straw or grass with her as we'd walk through the pass there. And I remember it tasting so bitter, but I like kept it in because I didn't know if I was allowed to take it out. But then I remember her teaching us how to like bend them and kind of make them into little like grass flowers with her hands at the end of the hike, and we'd leave them on a rock for somebody else to come and find. I have a lot of great memories from both of them as a kid, but I particularly loved the conversations that we got to have as I grew and got older. I went to school in Cedar City, and so being able to run down to St. George and spend time with her and Grandpa down there when I had important events, they would come up to Cedar City and be there through college and motherhood and having kids, and all just the stories and the advice, the care and the love. I feel very blessed to have just had the guidance and to have the love and the testimony that was given to us. I'm grateful that thank you. I'm grateful that both of my kids have memories of her. They don't have that of my Grandma Creamer, which has always been really hard for me that they didn't get to know her. And so I'm grateful that they at least have some memories of their great Grandma Elliott. I'm grateful for the legacy of hard work. When you think of some of the things that Courtney was saying of the time that she grew up in, I think as a woman, looking at what she accomplished in her lifetime, given the restraints that society had placed on her. I mean, we all love the Barbie clothes, but she had a Barbie empire. Like, the amount of business that she created for herself is truly something that today would be shown in like Women's Entrepreneurship magazine. And she did it quietly, and she did it humbly. And it was an example to me of you can choose to become whatever you want. And you don't have to stop because society says you're a woman and you shouldn't have a job. And she still did it all while remaining active in her family and in her faith. So I'm grateful for the legacy, and I'm grateful for all of the family that her and Grandpa have created for all of us to be here. And that's all. Thanks.
I just wanted to let you know that some of the fond memories I've had with my mother was growing up in high school and where I was working in Boy Scouts. No matter what project I was working on Boy Scouts, she always wanted to get involved in helping me. If I couldn't find somebody to go on a 10-mile hike with me for a hiking merit badge, I'd get ready to go out to get in the car to drive where I was going to go, and the next thing I'd know, she'd be sitting in the seat next to me with her hiking boots on to walk alongside me so that I wouldn't have to do it by myself. And that memories of all the things that she did with my brothers and my sister. She supported every project that we ever worked on. She taught me to love to read. Almost every good book that she read, she would either tell me on the phone that I needed to go down and buy this book, or if I didn't buy the book, what she thought was fast enough, she'd mail me the copy that she had at the house so that I'd have it, so that I'd be able to read. She always treated my kids wonderful. Even sometimes when they were little pills and I'd like to knock the snot out of them, she would tell me, no, you need to have patience. You need to do this and that. And I've been through ups and downs through life, but whenever I would have those days and I would talk to her, she'd make all those bad times go away and would give me the enlightenment for what I needed to carry on. Whenever I come to Utah to visit Charlotte and my mom, whenever I'd heading back to California, before I could get out of the driveway, she'd come out with little lunch bags of peanut butter sandwiches, carrots, celery, and potato chips, just like I was in high school. She didn't want me to go home hungry if I was hungry going across the desert. And she did that for my children also. She was my hero. She'll be greatly missed. Thank you.
Hi, most of you guys know me, Victor, known as Tony. I got a lot of fond memories of my grandmother, far more than probably I deserved. By far, for most of you that don't know me, I'm probably the one that broke the mold for your grandchildren. I caused a lot of grief. I was the trouble kid, but never once did she ever look different at me. Always made my day better, and I don't know how the candy hasn't been mentioned for the Christmas candy, because I could not get enough of that, and I always got in trouble trying to sneak that stuff. She would go to bed and I'd run off, but a lot of my good fond memories were when Nathan and I were young. We went out and we'd go to Fish Lake and we'd go down to the bottom and fish until Grandpa couldn't take it no more, and he'd drag us up, and then Grandma would have everything ready. We'd sit out and eat our dinners and lunches there, and right as rain, whether it rained or not, we were ready to go again. Grandma would have to remind us not to, no, your Grandpa can't do that. You know, and I still remember the day that we drove Grandpa all the way to the bottom and didn't take the trash, and she fell down the hill and injured herself, and we came back up, and here we had to take Grandma in because she broke her arm. I think it was her arm. She got injured, but yeah, she would always holler at me for standing and playing with fire. For why, I don't know, but now I catch myself doing it, and she instilled a lot of good memories, good background values with me to pass on to my family. You know, I could do no wrong in her. I don't know why or how she ever meant it. She had the biggest heart. And, you know, as time grew on, I grew older. I used to call her all the time. And I think I'll miss the times that I could just chat with her on the way home from work. And even when I'd forget and I'd let life get busy, she would always remind me, she'd be the one that would call out and reach out to me, you know, and just want to know how my day was. And as time grew nearer, our conversations grew shorter and shorter to seconds. And I still challenged and loved those minutes and seconds that we could have just to say, hi, Grandma. You know, and she'd never judge anybody. She never seemed to ever tell bad about it. She would always give you great opinions of her thoughts, you know, but she would never judge and say this person or this person. She would hear what you had to say with open heart and still love you the next, you know. She'll be greatly missed. Thank you.
Well, the family would like to express their gratitude for everybody that showed up. She loved her family. She loved everyone. She had nothing but nice things to say about everything. She's up there in heaven now with the angels, and they're all for the better that she's there with them. She's with the love of her life, our father, Victor Wallace Elliott. She's missed him ever since he passed away 9 years ago. And at this time, we'd like to have a closing song. It's Abide With Me. It's also on the paperwork. And we'd like to thank, again, Matthew for being the accompanist and Sherston as the chorister. After the song Abide With Me, then the benediction will be performed by Rachel Casillan. And at that point, we'll ask the pallbearers they'll take Mom out to the hearse. So we'll need the pallbearers to meet at the door to put their grandmother and aunt into the hearse, and then we'll go out to the gravesite. At that point, Mom's oldest son, my brother Larry, will do the dedication of the grave. Our grandfather, or my dad, was last week. We'd already talked to Mom about this. Since they already had the funeral plots here, gravesite plots, Dad or your grandfather was buried down in Ivans, and that's where Grandma was going to be. But she liked the idea of being up here so family and friends could see her, because more of us live around here. Nobody lives down in St. George area. So we had our father disinterred last week, and then just Tuesday last week he was interned over here. So they'll be side by side. So when Larry does the dedication, it'll be for both the graves. And so at this time we'll sing the song.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for this opportunity that we had to come together as family and friends and be able to see each other, be able to see Grandma one last time, be able to share memories and have memories come back to us that we had forgotten. We ask you to please help us to remember these always, help us to cherish them, help us to use them to make new memories with our families. We love thee, Heavenly Father, and we thank thee for the opportunity we have to be the posterity of Victor and Charlotte. And we ask thee to please bless us this day. Please keep us safe. Help us as we go our respective ways to always have thy spirit and be always to remember the love that we have from our grandparents and our parents. We love thee and we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Just one.